UFC Fight Night, Almeida versus Lewis is this weekend. I'm going to give you a prediction breakdown of all 13 fights on the card, starting with the early prelim matchup of Fernandes versus Marc Diakiese. I am going to go with Marc Diakiese in this matchup. Fernandes, when I looked at his fights that I believe it was his last fight against Felipe Douglas, this was actually a really nice head kick KO. It was like from the clinch, and then he's able to break it and just hit the head kick, and he just went completely out cold stiff as a board. But in this one, I haven't really seen too much of his takedown defense. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know how much of it is there, but I know Marc Diakiese going up some of the better guys in his division. Michael Johnson, still kind of that older veteran that gives decent performances. Like I thought he beat Malarkey. He obviously just lost Diakiese, so he's making it tough for some of those guys, especially Yoel Alvarez, very big dude for that division. So I don't really blame Marc Diakiese for losing those fights, but he does have wins over Damir Hadzovic and Vyacheslav Vorshev, who I think is a very good fighter as well. So Fernandes, I'm not going to take him here. Maybe he has a chance to impress quite a bit of people, and Marc Diakiese, it definitely has the ability to get finished. So maybe in the early part of this fight, maybe he can't get a finish over Diakiese, but I think as this fight goes on, Diakiese's going to use his wrestling, use his stand-up, and I think he's going to mix it in on Fernandes, make it a little bit rough for him, make him use some of his conditioning and test that cardio a little bit more, see if he gasses out. I think he might gas out a little bit. Well, not completely out, like he's like dying for air or whatever, but he's going to tire out quite a bit as these rounds go on. I think Diakiese's going to win a pretty nice decision here. I'm going to say 29-28 decision. Maybe he catches Diakiese early on and does a little bit more damage. If not, I can easily see this one being a 30-27 decision. So I'm going to go with Marc Diakiese by decision. Tapology 66% picked here. Again, Diakiese can easily get finished here in the first round. Fernandes definitely has that ability, but after that, I think Diakiese can do a really good job at controlling those fights. So I'm going to go with him. Up the card, we have Montserrat Ruiz versus Eduarda Moura. I'm going to go with Eduarda Moura. She was just on the Contender Series. She actually looked really good there. A pretty good wrestler. And honestly, I don't think Montserrat Ruiz is that good of a fighter. So I'm just going to have to go with Eduarda Moura. There's nothing too in-depth here. Minus 450 favorite, probably for a reason, especially a little bit younger, not too much younger, about a year younger than Montserrat Ruiz. She will have a larger reach advantage here as well, like a 5 or 6 inch reach advantage because this one's with the decimal. But Ruiz just got, I believe she came off a year and a half, 2-year layoff, and lost to Jacqueline Moura relatively quickly by TKO KO about 2 months ago. So I'm just going to go with Eduarda Moura. I think she can take her down and then beat her up on the ground, probably get the finish as well. I don't think Montserrat Ruiz has too much on the feet either, so I'm going to have to go with her in this one. Probably by submission, like this one says. She's a decently bigger female, so we'll see how this one goes. Again, I don't have big expectations for Montserrat Ruiz, so I just think Eduarda Moura just kind of just runs through her in this first round, so that's when I go in this one. Up the card, we have Angela Hill versus Denise Gomes. This is a very interesting fight because I think a lot of people are going to take Denise Gomes in this one, or at least Tapology is, which I think is pretty interesting. 1,500 people. I don't blame them. Her last few fights have actually been pretty impressive. I believe she beat someone on the Contender Series, came in against Loma Lukbumi, who is actually a pretty good fighter herself, lost to her, and then beat a decent prospect who I actually was pretty high on into that matchup. I thought Bruno Brazil was going to beat her up pretty badly just because of the wild style of Denise Gomes. But realize Bruno Brazil, when you get into the pocket, she has zero defense, literally has nothing there, a little bit chinny as well. And then Yasmin Uruguay, a very good prospect, 10-0 prospect. Denise Gomes just goes out there and KOs her. And now both of these ladies do kind of have a little bit of a chin issue. You kind of notice that a little bit in their fights, but you thought just the skill would kind of overcome it a little bit more, especially Yasmin Uruguay. But she went in there and KO'd her. One of the bigger women's prospects rising up at that point. She finished. So it was a pretty impressive win for Denise Gomes. But I'm going to have to go with Angela Hill. I think she's a veteran of the game. She knows what she's doing. I felt the same way about Lupi Godinez after she had a pretty impressive performance. She went up against Angela Hill. I thought she's going to do really good, and then she just ended up getting beaten. I won't say the same thing with Emily Ducote because I think I picked Angela Hill. I actually might be wrong there. I might have taken Ducote because she did have a really nice KO on the regionals, and then came in and beat up Penne relatively decently as well. So maybe I might have went with Ducote. I can't remember quite a bit. but she kind of stood her ground there. So I think with some of these higher level fighters, maybe she won't stand in there as much, like Mackenzie Dern, top 5 fighter, Verna Jandaroba, top 5 fighter, top 8, I think at this point. Amanda Lemos just fought for the belt. So these higher level fighters are beating Angela Hill, but these lower ranked fighters, prospects who are a little bit younger, doesn't have it all figured out yet, like only 23, 24 years of age, I think she's going to be able to beat. And she did kind of put a decent test against Mackenzie Dern a little bit later on in that fight. So I am going to go with Angela Hill here. I don't think she gets the finish, but I think she wins this one by decision. I will be surprised if Denise Gomes actually finishes her. It's definitely a possibility. She is getting older, 39 years of age, but I'm going to have to go with Angela Hill here. I think she can use her reach, control the fight a little bit more, and stay out of some of those dangerous punches that Denise Gomes is going to be coming at her with. So I'm going to go with Angela Hill by decision, 29% picked by Tapology, which I think is really interesting. We'll see how this fight goes, though. Anything can happen, but I'm going to stick with Angela Hill. Up the card, we have Vitor Petrino versus Modestas Bukauskas. This fight is actually a really fun fight. I actually really like this card. I checked it out before this. I was not expecting it to be this good. I haven't looked at the future cards yet, other than like the big pay-per-view ones yet, but I'm probably going to start looking through them to start mentally preparing with who I'm going to pick towards these upcoming cards. But just looking at this fight card, really nice card, especially this fight. I'm actually really interested in it. Vitor Petrino again against Modestas Bukauskas. Vitor Petrino is a really good prospect coming up. Same thing with Modestas Bukauskas. He was originally in the UFC. I believe he got cut after that Khalil Roundtree fight, which was pretty rough. I think he like completely destroyed his ACL there. Went into Cage Warriors, came back, beat Tyson Pedro by decision, and then beat Zach Pauga by decision as well. And I think he pretty much beat Tyson Pedro pretty good too. So that was a pretty impressive win to have, especially over Tyson Pedro that looked pretty good in his last matchup. And I think I'm going to have to go with Vitor Petrino here, because Vitor Petrino, I kind of jumped the gun there a little bit more, but Vitor Petrino started out as like a stand-up guy with a lot of power in his hands, really dynamic on the feet, and then he kind of turned into a wrestler, especially recently. Like, he's still super young, 26 years of age recently as well, but he's really been working on his wrestling. I believe in his last fight he got a submission win as well against Marcin Prachnio, which honestly he probably could have gotten the KO in that fight. He was rocking him quite a bit. I was actually getting kind of annoyed because I thought he wasn't going to end up getting the finish. I think I might have bet on him to win by KO or whatever. I don't remember quite the details of it, but he definitely has that ability to KO guys on the feet. Although when I do watch him, I do get kind of worried because the way he fights as the fight goes on, he does tire out a little bit more and he does become a little bit more open on the feet. I'm just thinking, like, if someone with some good power like hits him, I feel like he'll just like flatline or whatever. But again, he's a very good prospect, really good on the feet. Again, very dynamic with a lot of kicks, really good power in his hands that could pretty much flatline anybody and rock a lot of people. Has the wrestling now, again, working on his grappling. So I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino. I think he has more aspects of his game. He's still super young, and I think coming up in this division is going to look really good. I'm expecting a ranking soon. I like that he's kind of building off of these unranked guys. They're not pushing them too far, which I really like. Again, just take out some of these unranked guys, develop your skill set a little bit more, and then when you're prepared, you'll be able to be a little bit more competitive with like the top 15 of the division, because I don't think he's there yet, but I think he's getting close. Again, he just needs to develop a little bit more. But Modestas Bukauskas can definitely win this fight. He's very good on the feet. I actually really like him as a fighter, so I mean, it's kind of a love-hate matchup here, but this matchup is going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Modestas Bukauskas can definitely maybe get a finish by TKO here. But again, the power, Vitor Petrino, I think will catch Modestas Bukauskas. And if Bukauskas is going to win this, I think it'll probably be like a 29-28 decision. But I think Petrino has multiple ways of winning, maybe like a submission if he can't get the takedown, maybe by TKO KO, or maybe even by decision himself. So I think Vitor Petrino has a lot of ways to win this one. If it does get scrappy, I think the power will definitely be the difference maker. I think Bukauskas might be the faster guy on the feet, and maybe he'll land more shots. But I think if it does end up being a scrap, I think Petrino would definitely come out on top there. So I'm going to go with Petrino, younger guy. Will be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage, but again, just more tools in the toolbox than Modestas Bukauskas in this one. Petrino is 83% picked by Tapology, 65% by TKO KO, 23% by decision. I can see that one happening, honestly. I can see Bukauskas getting really confident on the feet and then kind of just Vitor Petrino catching him with a hook and then just landing more and more shots. What I do kind of worry is like he catches them and goes for takedowns again. and then just kind of stalls out on the ground or tries to look for the submission. But again, if he catches Bukauskas, I think he should go for the finish. He has that power. Might as well just get the finish early on, get that finishing bonus as well. So I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino. I'm going to say TKO in the second round. I think he ends up catching Bukauskas in this fight. Up the card, we have Elizeu Zaleski versus Rinat Fakhretdinov. I'm going to go with Rinat Fakhretdinov. He really is kind of coming into his own, especially recently. I was kind of doubting him a little bit more when he first started out, but win over Andreas Michailidis, good decision win there. Good win over Brian Battle. I can't remember. Did Brian Battle take that one on short notice? I think he did. But again, it's still a pretty impressive matchup against Brian Battle, who is actually looking really good right now, especially good win over Kevin Lee. Also, Rinat Fakhretdinov has good power in his hands, really good wrestling. Elizeu Zaleski, though, like on paper, if you ask me, like maybe a year and a half ago, a year or two ago, this matchup might get a little bit more interesting. But Elizeu Zaleski is definitely getting older, 37 years of age. Last fight was a win over Abubakar Nurmagomedov. I think I predicted him to win that. Just take down the fence. He's going to be better on the feet. And I didn't think Abubakar is that great of a Nurmagomedov. Like, if you look at all the Nurmagomedovs, I think he's probably towards the bottom of that list anyways. But a good win there. Beat Benoit Saint-Denis, but I think Benoit Saint-Denis took that one up at division as well. So it is a good win in totality. But again, it's not necessarily the same division. But he did stuff to takedowns from Benoit Saint-Denis. The fight went a little bit too long. Probably shouldn't have went to a decision. That ref got like all his fights taken away from that entire card because of just how much brain damage Benoit Saint-Denis took that from that fight. But I think Rinat Fakhretdinov takes down Elizeu Zaleski, or maybe even catches him early on here, or maybe just pins him down to the ground and gets the TKO win. Probably in the second or third round here. I don't see this one going to decision. I think, again, Rinat's kind of getting into his groove a little bit more. This is a tougher fight than what a Kevin Lee would be, but I still think he gets the finish here. A very strong dude as well. So he's 32 years of age as well, entering his prime, 1 inch reach advantage. I don't think this one sticks on the feet too long, but I can see him kind of catching Zaleski as he's looking for a takedown. Maybe catches Zaleski a little bit off guard, or just completely just ragdolls him and then just wins by just ground and pound strikes. So I am going to go with Rinat Fakhretdinov. 93% picked by Tapology, 48% by decision, 28% by TKO KO. I don't mind a decision because, again, Zaleski's pretty tough and he's good on the feet and on the ground. So maybe he can kind of hold off Rinat for a little bit more, but I still think he gets the win here. If not TKO strikes, it'll probably be a decision. The card we had Daniel Marcos versus Victor Hugo. I believe Victor Hugo was on Dana White's Contender Series. It was one of those fights that was like a late cut for one of the cards, added on to another one. So it was good to see him fight eventually, but he has some really good jiu-jitsu. He's decent on the feet. I won't say he's up there with Daniel Marcos on the feet, but I think he can definitely develop his striking a little bit more. I guess he's 31 years of age, entering his prime. Same thing kind of with Daniel Marcos, and Daniel Marcos is undefeated too. So two really good regional guys here outside of the UFC coming into the UFC. Daniel Marcos got a win over Brandon Lewis on the Contender Series, beat Simon Oliveira by TKO KO, and then beat Davey Grant by split decision, which was an interesting matchup. I guess it's kind of iffy on who you ask who won that decision. A lot of people think Davey Grant won. Some people thought Daniel Marcos won, but I am going to go with Victor Hugo here. I think he can end up taking down Daniel Marcos. I'm not crazy about his takedown defense, and I think Victor Hugo is not Simon Oliveira. I think although Simon Oliveira does have some good grappling, I think Victor Hugo is going to be able to take some of his shots a little bit better. I think he has a little bit of some better entries. He doesn't really telegraph it too much, and I think he can get these guys to the ground better than Simon Oliveira. And I don't even think is Simon Oliveira even in the UFC anymore? I don't think he is. And I think Victor Hugo is going to be a little bit more tougher on the feet as well. So I am going to go with Victor Hugo by submission, I want to say, in the second round. If it does stay on the feet, I do kind of worry a little bit more because I think Daniel Marcos can definitely keep up a pace that could be pretty tough for Victor Hugo, but I think Victor Hugo is going to be able to time a shot really well on Daniel Marcos and end up maybe either getting a submission or maybe getting TKO strikes on the ground. It's probably going to be a submission. I'm going to be completely honest. He's not kind of a guy that'll just hold you there and just ground and pound you. Maybe he gets like the back and flattens him out or something like that, but I just don't see that happening either. So I'm going to go with Victor Hugo by submission. I'm going to say second round submission for this matchup. Tapology has it 78% for Marcos, 22% for Hugo. I think that's really interesting. I'm taking Hugo. Tapology disagrees here. I guess we'll find out who wins this one, but I'm gonna go Hugo on this one. I think he just has better time takedowns than a Simon Oliveira. I didn't get the finish. I think a lot of people are looking at Simon Oliveira fight and saying Marcos is gonna win this one, but again, I am gonna go Victor Hugo by submission. We have Elvis Brenner versus Esteban Ribovic. I am going to go with Elvis Brenner. This dude just beat Guram Kudaladzej by TKO KO. So, I mean, if you're finishing Guram, who I believe is one of the top guys in that division, or at least I thought, because he made it pretty close with Demir Magulov and Mateusz Gamrot, I think those decisions probably could have gone either way, especially. I mean, just a pretty impressive performance all around. Was able to take him down as well, which I thought was super impressive, and then end up getting the finish, of course. But Guram is no joke, and he got the finish, which is absolutely insane. So I think he's going to be able to beat Esteban Ribovic. Esteban Ribovic is really good on the feet. He doesn't move his head, which is kind of worrying. I think Brenner can kind of take advantage of that. But his boxing is pretty crisp. But I do think Brenner can take him down in this matchup. I believe Ribovic was taken down by Radzhabov. I think, wasn't that fight on short notice for both of them? Or it was something along the lines of that. Maybe it was on short notice for Ribovic, because I think he was on the Contender Series. Maybe it was short notice for Loic Radzhabov, if I'm remembering correctly. But Radzhabov was able to take him down. I know he had a couple decent reversals in that fight, and it made it actually kind of interesting, but I don't know if he's going to be able to fend it off against Brenner. Brenner trains at a shoot box, so you know how they go. It's pretty good grappling all around, pressure focused fighters, and I think Elvis Brenner is that guy. So I'm going to go with Elvis Brenner in this matchup. I think Ribovic is too hittable, and I think he's going to be able to take down Ribovic in this matchup. I think he actually does get the finish as well. If this fight goes at the pace that these shootbox fighters do fight at, I don't see Ribovic kind of hanging in there as much as a Brenner would, because you know those guys have wars in the gym. You saw how it was with Guram Kudaladzej when Brenner started putting the pressure on. I think Brenner wins this one for sure by TKO KO. Maybe he gets the Tapology is saying the decision, but I can see him getting the finish, honestly, in like the second or third round. Probably like the third round as the fight goes on. When these guys start to tire out, I can see Brenner getting the finish here, just hurting him and then finishing him up on the ground, maybe popping in the submission. But I'm taking Brenner in this fight. 80% picked by Tapology, 15% by TKO KO, 71% by decision. I'm going to go with Brenner in this fight and by a third round finish. I'm not going to say submission or KO, but I think he gets a finish either way. Up the card, Ismail Bonfim versus Vince Pichel. I almost just butchered that name. I am going to go with Ismail Bonfim. I know his last fight was a loss to Benoit Saint-Denis by finish, but Benoit Saint-Denis is actually a really good fighter. I know I just talked about him losing Elizeu Zaleski up a division on short notice, but down a division. He's looked actually super impressive. I think he just came off a win against Thiago Moises, which I thought was a pretty good win. So it kind of establishes as Benoit Saint-Denis as a really good fighter at lightweight. And Ismail Bonfim lost to him, hurt his arm or his forearm blocking some kicks in the early part of the round. But I think he can finish Vince Pichel here. 40 years of age, almost 41, hasn't fought in a year and a half, lost to Marc Madsen by decision. I'll go Ismail Bonfim. And these Bonfim brothers, good on the feet and on the ground. I'm expecting Bonfim to probably get the finish here by the first round KO. I think a lot of people are expecting that. 94% picked by Tapology, 27% by decision, 59% by KO. Again, his debut was against Terrence McKinney after the Contender Series, of course. Against Terrence McKinney, got that flying in KO, which was a highlight reel KO, like a brutal KO as well. So I think he probably gets a brutal KO here as also, year and a half off, 41 years of age. I think they're kind of setting it up for it. So I'm going to go Ismail Bonfim by first round KO. The card, we have Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosian. Here's another one of those fights. I think I am going to go with Armen Petrosian. Rodolfo Vieira is very good on the ground. He's a black belt world champion or whatever the hell. Very good on the ground, but again, has come off of a rough loss against Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis, again, has really good takedown defense and was able to kind of just keep calm when Rodolfo Vieira is kind of going at him and beat him up on the feet. And Rodolfo Vieira is not that good on the feet. And Armen Petrosian is very good on the feet, but just not good on the ground. But I have noticed in his recent fight against Christian Leroy Duncan, I know it is Christian Leroy Duncan and not a world-class grappler, but I think the takedowns that Rodolfo Vieira does kind of shoot are a little bit more telegraphed than, say, like a Borralho, which I think even Armen Petrosian had a decent chance in that fight. And I think he can have a pretty decent chance in this fight as well. I think as long as he just doesn't get taken down, of course. But he has shown the ability, or at least has what it looks like, have been working on his takedown defense. Rodolfo Vieira just beat Cody Brundage by arm triangle, it's Cody Brundage. But I think Armen Petrosian can do some really good work on the feet. I think he's going to defend the takedowns. I can see him cracking Vieira and kind of defending the takedowns, making it a little bit easier to defend him because the shots are going to be a little bit more telegraphed. It's going to be more of like panic shooting. I don't know if he gets the finish. I think this one probably goes to a decision, but I think I can see him defending some of the takedowns here. Petrosian is the most picked here on Tapology, 72% picked by Tapology, 69% by decision, 24% by KO. I'm going to go with the decision here. I think he pieces up Vieira, kind of keeps it a little bit more calm. He doesn't really have to worry about Vieira on the feet. So I think that's definitely going to be helpful here as well. But Christian Leroy Duncan was a pretty good prospect. I think some people are forgetting that, but really, really good prospect. Takedown defense has improved from Petrosian, which I do like to see. I think he gets the finish here, or not the finish. I think he gets the decision here in this one. Of the card, we have Caio Borralho versus Abus Magomedov. I am going to go with Caio Borralho here. I know Abus Magomedov just got a main event against Sean Strickland, got finished there in the second round after he gassed out completely in that first round. That was pretty interesting to see there. Well, he beat Dustin Stoltzfus pretty early in that fight by KO, and then automatically got a top 5. Well, I guess Strickland was number 6 at that time against a top contender in the middleweight division on a 5-round fight, and gassed out at the first. So a pretty rough one coming off from Abus Magomedov there, but Caio Borralho beat Mikhail Oleszejczyk by rear naked choke, which is a pretty good win to have. I know Mikhail Oleszejczyk isn't the best on the ground, but again, pretty high level fighter that you beat, especially unranked wise. Like there's quite a bit of unranked guys at middleweight, especially middleweight. It seems like there's quite a bit of like an abundance. You can kind of see what levels they're at. Like if you're one of the better guys, you'll shoot up, of course, because you'll have like your Brendan Allens, you'll have a Fluffy Hernandez who like maybe a year ago were unranked and are kind of fiending through some of those unranked guys, and you kind of just got to figure out who it is. Because I'm just gonna be honest, these middleweight prospects are kind of hard to tell from each other, who's gonna be those guys and who's not. I think Caio Borralho is for real. Mikhail Oleszejczyk, a really, really good unranked fighter, of course. Same thing with Makhmudov. I know this one was a little bit iffy, but I think his last fight against Mikhail Oleszejczyk kind of put the stamp on it. I think this guy's going to be a pretty good fighter further down the line. He continues to get better. 31 years of age. He is getting better on the feet, but I think Abus Magomedov's cardio is definitely going to be a problem here. If Caio Borralho can kind of stay out of the danger early on in this fight, I think Abus Magomedov kind of gassing out a little bit more here is definitely going to be a really big problem for him. He does have some decent wrestling. I think he did take down Sean Strickland, which I think was like the first time Sean Strickland was taken down at middleweight, if I'm not mistaken. He does actually have some pretty good takedown defense as well. So Abus Magomedov was actually able to take the back of Caio Borralho, but Sean Strickland. He's not going to be able to do that to Caio Borralho. Caio Borralho is a really good grappler on the ground. I can kind of see that him forcing it a little bit more on Abus Magomedov. I think he can actually do pretty decently on the feet here as this fight goes on. So I am going to go with Caio Borralho by, I don't want to say by finish, because again, we have only seen Abus Magomedov at 2 extremes. One of them in a 1-round, like 13-second fight against Dustin Stoltzfus, who probably shouldn't even be in the UFC, won that one by quick KO. And then a 5-round main event against Sean Strickland where he gassed out completely after the first round, after looking really good in that first round, and has shown to have good grappling. So who knows, maybe he does get the finish here in the first round against Caio Borralho and just puts the pressure on. And Borralho's fight IQ is just not good at all, and we find that out here. But I'm going to go with Caio Borralho. I think he survives that first round, wins a 29-28 decision, just tags Abus Magomedov on the feet. I don't think Abus shuts down quite like he did against Sean Strickland, because Sean Strickland does actually have some really good power in his hands. And the pace that he does put on some of the guys is definitely a problem for some of them. So that's why I think Abus kind of shut down there. But I think Caio Borralho can kind of ride this one out to a decision, just controlling the fight on the feet. So 90% pick by Tapology here, 52% by submission, 30% by decision. I think submission is really interesting. Just, I guess... I mean, has Abus Magomedov lost by submission? Oh, he has. He's lost twice. Wait, when did he lose to submission here? Actually, I actually kind of want to check here. When was the last time he lost this? Okay, he lost in 2013 by submission against Rafael Mox and Andres Stahl. So it's been a very long time since he's lost by submission. I'm going to say a decision here. I know Borralho is really good on the ground, but I don't know if he gets the submission. I think if anything, if he were to get a finish, it would probably be like him maybe like taking the back and just ground and pounding him out. But I'm going to go with Borralho by decision. I just think Magomedov kind of just gasses out after that first round. The card, we have Rodrigo Nascimento versus Jailton Almeida. I'm going to go Rodrigo Nascimento. I think this is what their second fight or whatever. Jailton Almeida is not that good. He doesn't have good takedown defense either, and I think Rodrigo Nascimento can kind of just ride him out there on the ground. Maybe go in by TKO as well. Andrei Arlovski beat him by KO, but Andrei Arlovski got KO'd by air in his fight before that, so can't really count on that win being that great. But recently, Jailton Almeida hasn't looked that great. Lost to Augusto Sakai, which is a rough one to lose to. I think, didn't Augusto Sakai get cut too? I mean, that's pretty rough in its own right, but Augusto Sakai wasn't getting any wins. Maybe he didn't get cut. Maybe I'm just completely wrong there. But and then lost to, I believe, Hamdi Abdullahav. I think he got popped for roids though, so I don't think that one counted. But I'm gonna go Rodrigo Nascimento. I think he can take down Jailton Almeida here, beat Ihor Latifi by split decision, Tanner Boser by split decision, Alan Badeau didn't count, Chris Dawkins, he lost by K. I don't know, actually. Hold on. Well, that was 3 years ago. Yeah, he's going to get the takedown on Jailton Almeida. I don't know why I'm making this difficult for myself, but Jailton Almeida has a 1-inch reach advantage here. I guess 1 year older. I'm going to go with Rodrigo Nascimento. 89% picked by Tapology, 46% by decision, 33% by submission. Maybe he gets the submission on him. I can just see him kind of just probably getting a decision here, just winning on the ground, getting some punches in, getting some points. Nothing crazy here. I'm actually surprised this is on the main card. I feel like you kind of substitute this fight for a lot of fights on the main card, but again, I have no idea why it's ordered this way. So we'll see if they mix it up a little bit more, but up the card, we have Gabriel Bonfim versus Nicholas Dalby. I am going to go Gabriel Bonfim. If you know and if you've seen some of my videos, I am very high on this dude. 26 years of age as well. Still very, very young. We'll be at a 2.5-inch reach advantage here, but his last fight against Trevin Giles, guillotine choke 2 months ago. Beat Munir Lazez by a mounted guillotine choke, and then beat Trey Waters on the Contender Series by a Von Flue choke. Nicholas Dalby in his last fight beat Muslim Salikov by decision, which is actually a pretty decent one to have, especially for Nicholas Dalby at this point in his career. And Muslim Salikov is actually a decent fighter in the UFC, so I was actually surprised to see that one. But got the win there. I think I picked Muslim Salikov. I don't think I picked Nicholas Dalby, but beat Worley Alves by split decision, beat Claudio Silva by decision. I'm going to have to go Gabriel Bonfim. He finds way to get these finishes. He's really good on the feet. He's different from his brother. He's a little bit more fast-paced. The technique isn't necessarily there yet, but he's a lot younger. He's definitely just going to come at you, wait for you to make that mistake. He's going to try and get you in a submission. He does have some decent pop in his shots as well, and he can hurt you. So I think an older Nicholas Dalby, who, again, is a pretty decently durable guy, I don't think he wins this one. 39 years of age. Plus 400 underdog kind of tells the story here. Minus 550 favorite. Again, Gabriel Bonfim is a very, very good prospect. So I'm just going to take him by submission. I don't think he finishes Nicholas Dalby. Maybe he hurts Nicholas Dalby and gets him in a guillotine or something, kind of like how he did against Trevin Giles there. But we'll see how this one goes. I do think he gets the finish, though, 100%, probably in the first round as well. I think he does get the finish. So 95% picked by Tapology here. Gabriel Bonfim is 68% by submission, 17% by decision. I don't think this one goes to... Whoa, why did I say that like that? I don't think this one goes to a decision. I think he gets the finish here in the first round. So I'm going to go with Gabriel Bonfim by first round submission. Up the card, we have Jailton Almeida versus Derrick Lewis. I'm going to have to go with Jailton Almeida. Derrick Lewis is coming in here on short notice, was replacing Curtis Blades. I think the Curtis Blades fight obviously would be a little bit more interesting. I might have even chosen Curtis Blades in this matchup, but this one in Derrick Lewis' career, I can't really get behind him. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, his last fight was pretty impressive against Marcos Rogério de Lima. I think the UFC was actually ready to kind of like let him go. At least from what it sounds like. It sounded like they let his contract expire. Derrick Lewis in that post-fight speech said, "Oh, I don't know where I'm going, but I want the UFC to resign me," obviously, all that kind of stuff. And the UFC ended up re-signing him. which is why I think he kind of just went out there and threw balls to the wall to actually get that finish, because he actually needed, or at least wanted, a new contract. But in this fight, I don't know if the effort's necessarily going to be there in his last fight like it was there. But I mean, even like the Sergey Spivak fight, he kind of just got taken down till he just didn't want to get up anymore. I feel like he did a really good job defending the takedowns early on, but I think eventually it was just too much for him at that point. Sergey Pavlovich, I think he really did want to win that. He says the referee slighted him. It was a pretty interesting finish there, but I still think just the way Derrick Lewis went down, he went like down face first, his head hit the canvas or whatever, but he popped right up after. So, I mean, it is what it is, but lost Sergey Pavlovich, lost to Tai Tuivasa. I just don't know. Is his will to win there? Will really there at this point in his career? I know he does kind of have that takedown defensive, like, I'm just going to get up. And maybe that becomes super interesting in this fight. But I think Jailton Almeida, when going for takedowns in this fight, he obviously don't test it up on the feet. You're going to get KO'd. Maybe he does take some shots, and maybe he actually is a superhuman or whatever, just exactly how he looks. But I think if you're going to go for a takedown, I'd probably go into clinch, not do what Curtis Blades did and shoot a double leg and get like uppercutted and just flatlined out cold. Again, Derrick Lewis definitely has the ability against Jailton Almeida, and I kind of worry about that a little bit more. Derrick Lewis is a very big guy, and we do see Jailton Almeida ragdolling these huge heavyweights. But I think Jailton Almeida needs to go to the clinch, kind of just take him down and then do his work there. But if he shoots a double leg and Derrick Lewis kind of just does some Houdini shit and just puts him out cold or whatever, is like on his back, he's like, and he actually wants to put in that effort, he's like, nah, I'm gonna get up, we're gonna take this fight on the feet, then I'm actually really worried for Jailton Almeida, because it just seems like he's not super comfortable on the feet with his striking. So that's the only reason why. Maybe if we saw a little bit more stuff from Jailton Almeida, I know he throws a lot of kicks, but so does Derrick Lewis. He got a flying knee KO, so anything can really happen here. But I think Jailton Almeida, if he's going to take down Derrick Lewis, go into the clinch, kind of just rag him a little bit more, do kind of what Sergey Spivak did, get into that clinch. I don't think he's going to be able to chuck Derrick Lewis, kind of like how Sergey Spivak did, but trying to just go for trips and then just win by TKO there. Kind of like, okay, he did win by arm triangle. Maybe he can't get the arm triangle on Derrick Lewis here. It's kind of iffy on whether. There's a lot of these guys where you don't really know if he's going to get the TKO or the submission. You have Shavkat. I think I just mentioned someone else, Bonfim. Kind of just don't know because they just have a lot of tools on the ground. I'm going to say submission for Almeida, probably just arm triangle, very similar to how Spivak got it done against Derrick Lewis. So I wonder what Tapology is saying. Yeah, submission for Almeida here. 86% picked by Tapology. Most of it by submission. I think he does get the submission as well. Maybe he hops on the back and gets a rear naked choke, or just ground and pound TKOs Derrick Lewis when he does like flatten him out on his back or whatever. I'm going to go with Almeida probably by arm triangle, similar to how Sergey Spivak did get the finish over Derrick Lewis. So that's my pick for this card. Let me know who you guys have in the main event here. Who are your guys' underdogs? And I'll see you guys next time.